If you're struggling to grow your chest, here's exactly what you need to do. I wasn't always gifted with a good chest. I was even embarrassed back then because I had like man boobs. I barely had any muscle and I had just fat on my chest. The good news is that you can actually change all of that. It's really simple and straightforward. After you get the knowledge that I'll be sharing in this video, you will be growing your chest in no time. In today's video, I'll be breaking down, first of all, what actually makes an aesthetic chest through the anatomy of the chest, 3 key exercises that you have to focus on in order to build an aesthetic chest, and finally, the overall training plan that you can follow to get the results that you want. First, let's just break down the anatomy of the chest. What actually makes an aesthetic chest? The primary region that actually makes an aesthetic chest is actually the upper chest area, which is the clavicular head of the chest. This is the most aesthetic part of the chest because it actually gives you that wide and broad look that all men actually desire. They all want this V taper where your shoulders are broad and then it tapers down to a narrow waist. And the upper chest is actually responsible for that because it adds this meat at the top of your chest very near to your shoulder area, and it just gives you a very wide shelf. The second part of the chest is actually the mid chest, which is the sternal head, and then the final part is the lower chest, which is the costal head. And you don't have to worry too much about this region. Most of the mass will be actually coming from the mid and lower chest. Now let's just go through 3 key exercises that you can actually focus on in order to build an aesthetic chest. The first one will be an incline compound movement. The incline compound movement will be biasing the upper chest, and what you want to focus on when doing your incline compound movement is that you want to take a narrower grip with a tucked in elbow to bias shoulder flexion, as the upper chest does shoulder flexion. You also want an incline of about 30 to 45 degrees. Naturally, on incline, you will be also doing shoulder flexion. You also want to take a minimal arch when you're actually doing your incline movements, because when you actually have an arch, you actually negate the incline that you have actually placed on the bench, because when you actually arch, you're technically reducing the incline. A couple of good movements that you can follow are Smith incline bench, incline machine press, incline hamstring press, incline dumbbell or barbell press. I would choose an exercise that is rather stable so that you can actually generate the most force possible and thus elicit the most muscle growth as possible. However, a more important thing is that you enjoy the movement. So if you enjoy doing your incline dumbbell presses or incline barbell presses, stick with that and it will be totally fine. The next type of compound movement that you want to focus on is actually your flat compound movement. I'm sure many of you are actually familiar with this because the first thing that we do when we first start going to the gym is actually doing the barbell bench press. So that's actually a flat compound movement. So this will be actually biasing the mid chest and also of course be involving some degree of the lower chest and the upper chest as well. The primary function of the mid chest is actually to do shoulder horizontal adduction. You can observe that when you're actually doing a flat compound movement, your elbows are kind of going towards the midline of your body. So that's actually shoulder horizontal adduction. When you're doing a flat compound movement, you want to maintain a slight tuck in your elbows and a slight arch so that you don't experience any shoulder pain. A couple of good movements that you can do is Smith flat bench, flat machine press, flat hamstring press, flat dumbbell or barbell press. As usual, I would pick a rather stable movement so that I can generate the most force and elicit the most muscle growth. However, just pick a movement that you like, because ultimately if you like something, then you will stick to it more and also push harder. Then we move on to our final movement, which is actually a fly isolation movement. When we're doing our compound movements, we also will be involving the shoulders and the triceps to a certain degree. In order to actually hit the chest directly, we want to have an isolation movement. If you're someone that is more shoulder and tricep dominant like I am, I find that having a fly isolation movement is very crucial. So this will be actually a pure shoulder horizontal adduction movement, as I already described earlier. This actually gets the shoulders and triceps out of the movement. A couple of good movements that you can do is the pack deck flies or cable flies. Any sort of fly variation is fine. Now let's just move on to the sample training plan that we can follow. We will be doing a 2 times per week frequency because this allows us to elicit the most muscle growth in a week as possible. Muscles typically take about 24 to 48 hours to recover, so when they're fresh and good to go, we want to actually hit them again so that we can elicit the most muscle growth possible in a week. The first session will be an incline focus session, so that will be involving more of the upper chest, and the first movement that we will be doing is actually an incline compound movement. Choose your favorite exercise. Over here you can do a Smith incline press, incline machine press, any sort of variation is fine. Then we move on to a flat compound movement. stick to your Smith flat bench, flat machine press, any sort of flat movement. This will be biasing the mid chest, and then we move on to our final fly isolation movement to get the shoulders and triceps out of the equation and purely target the chest. You can do pec deck fly, cable fly, any sort of variation is fine. If you lack the time, you can just simply skip out the flat compound movement because your incline compound movement will still be involving the mid chest to a certain degree, and it is simply just biasing the upper chest. The second session will be more of a mid chest focused session, so we will be starting off with a flat compound movement. Do your Smith flat bench, any kind of flat press is fine. And secondly, we'll be doing an incline compound movement. So any kind of incline, we won't be doing an isolation movement in this session because we already did it in the previous session. So that should be enough. That's it actually. You don't have to do a lot of exercises, just keep it simple. And I find that keeping things simple and just focusing on a few key movements is actually the best way to progress. The art of progression is actually very boring. You just have to stick to key movements that you enjoy and just keep doing them over and over and over again. Let's talk about volume and intensity. When it comes to volume and intensity, what I actually prefer is that you stick to 2 to 3 sets at a very high intensity for each exercise. High intensity meaning 0 to 2 reps to failure. So this actually makes the set as effective as it can be. Why? Because when you actually push to a higher intensity, what happens is that you're actually providing a more optimal stimulus for muscle growth. When you push close to failure and your reps start to involuntarily slow down, that is when the most mechanical tension is actually happening on the target muscle, which is the key driver of hypertrophy or muscle growth. And that is why we want to actually push close to failure in order to actually elicit the most muscle growth as possible. I also typically enjoy sticking to a lower rep range of 4 to 8 because I find that it is easier to progressively overload over time, meaning add more weight for a certain exercise. When I have higher rep ranges, I find that I get more fatigue on an endurance basis instead of an actual muscular failure. The absolute most important thing that you want to focus on when trying to build your chest and any other muscle group is progressive overload. What is progressive overload? Progressive overload is a very good sign of muscle growth. And what is it actually? It's when you're able to do more weight for a given number of reps or more reps for a given weight to the same intensity and also the same technique, meaning your form doesn't change or break down. Ability to actually progressive overload is the result of the adaptations that have occurred when we are actually doing resistance training and also providing a stimulus on our muscle. As a result of resistance training, our muscles will increase in size, and when they actually increase in size, it means that they're actually able to produce more force more likely than not. As a result of this, you'll be able to push more weight and thus progressive overload. So progressive overload is a very good sign of muscle growth and that you know that your chest is actually growing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found this video informational and helpful. If you want a full workout split that you can follow even when you're busy as a student or working a 9 to 5, you can check out the video that I made at the top right corner over here. I've made a 4-day upper lower split that you can follow. It only takes 1 hour per session and I find that it's probably the best split that you can do. I also have a 3-day minimalist full body version if you simply do not have even 1 hour to do your workouts and you need like just 30 minutes, then check it out as well. If you enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe. It will really help me a lot so that I can be producing more of these types of videos to help you guys. And also leave a comment if you wish to see any sort of other fitness content.